Hello, everybody. Hello, this is Reverend Augustus Corbett, and I'm excited that you're with me tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about voting rights. I want to give you an update, and I'm going to continue to keep coming to you about voting rights because it is just that critical and urgent for us as African Americans. Okay? So we're going to talk a little bit tonight. I'm going to do something a little different. I want you to write comments. If you have questions, I want to answer your questions live. Any question that you have about voting rights, I want to answer those questions live. Okay, so we're going to do something just a little bit different. So let's talk about it. So before I get started, please let me ask of you to share this with your followers and friends and all over social media, and help me get the word out. It's very important. Voting is critical. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be fighting so hard. Okay? All right, so let me make sure that everything is going off well. Make sure I'm being seen, and make sure that okay, so I just got notice that it sounds like I'm in a tunnel. Sounds like I'm in a tunnel. Well, let me see if I can fix that. That can be fixed. So I will fix it. So I need the mic up. I need to do another mic. This mic may not be working the way I want it to work. So I will put on another mic. Okay, now, how does that sound? Everybody, let me know. How does that sound? Get the cord out of my way. Is that better? Is that better? That ought to be better. Is that any better? Let me know. Let me know. Does that sound better? Does that sound better? Does it still sound like I'm in a tunnel? Or is it okay now? Just waiting for you all to let me know. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you had a good day today. It was kind of hot here in Texas today in the 90s. It's usually like that in the summertime. In fact, it's usually hotter this time of the year. I don't believe we've had our triple digits yet, but they're coming. We still have half of July and all of August, so they are coming. All right, so I think that hopefully sounds better. Otherwise, we're gonna have to go with what we got here. Okay, we're gonna have to go with what we got. All right. So again, we want to talk about voting rights. Now, I'm here in the great state of Texas, the Lone Star State, and you all know all that's been going on here. If you've been keeping up with it. The Texas Democrats have literally left the state of Texas so that they can stop the GOP here from passing more voter suppression laws. And the GOP cannot pass those laws because they need a quorum in the legislature, and they don't have it when the Democrats are not at the House. And so the Democrats are off in D.C. and they're spending that time talking to, Democrat senators in Washington, namely Joe Manchin. I think they're going to meet with Manchin tomorrow, and Sinema, the two Democrat senators who are not on board with abolishing the filibuster, so that Democrats can pass legislation that will restore the Voting Rights Act in particular, and to elect or to enact other anti-voter suppression laws, namely for the PEOPLE Act and the John Lewis Reestablishment Act, I believe it is, or Voter Advancement Act. I sometimes get it messed up, but one of them is to restore the Voting Rights Act. That's the one that's named in John Lewis's honor. And the For the People Act is there to undo some of all these anti-voter suppression laws that we see states passing, GOP states passing across the country. So without abolishing the filibuster, however, those laws cannot be enacted because the GOP senators will not allow them to get a vote. So I looked it up. It's the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And that act is designed to, what's going on with I just got a message that there's like a vibration. What is that all about? A vibration. Never had that. See? That's how important this is. And that's why I'm having issues, because the voting demons don't want you to hear this. And so I don't know what is going on here, but let me see if there's a quick fix. Let me see if there's a quick fix. Let me see if there is a quick fix. All right, I made a change. Let's see if that's better. Is that better? Is that better? I want you to hear me loud and clear tonight. I want you to hear me loud and clear. Perfect. Yay. Yay. I just got the perfect signal. Okay, where are my sounds? Where are my sounds? All right, there we go. All right, so it's now perfect. So kind of let me start over. So the Texas Democrats here in Texas, the Democrats who are part of the Texas legislature, left the state because Greg Abbott called a special session because he and his GOP colleagues are trying to get more voter suppression laws passed here in Texas. So the Democrats did a maneuver. And so they decided to leave the state so that the Republican Party here in Texas doesn't have a quorum. And without a quorum, they cannot vote on legislation. And so that is preventing, at least temporarily, preventing the Texas GOP from passing more voter suppression laws, okay? And meanwhile, the Texas Democrats are in D.C. and they are lobbying two senators in particular, Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Senator Sinema of Arizona. They are Democrats, but I don't know, sometimes they act like Republicans, okay? And at least where voting rights are concerned. And so they both have said that they're not going to support Democrats' efforts to abolish the filibuster. And so long as there's a filibuster rule, the Democrats cannot pass meaningful legislation because it takes 10 Republicans to overcome a filibuster. And so if one of the Republicans filibuster, then the Democrats don't have the 10 Republicans to overcome that filibuster, and so the bill doesn't even get a vote. Doesn't even get a vote. Okay, and that is holding up two critical voting rights laws on the national level. One is the John Lewis Voting Advancement Act, I believe it's what it's called. The John Lewis, you gotta look it up. The John Lewis Voting Advancement Act. That will restore several sections of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that the U.S. Supreme Court has, done a lot of damage to. You've heard me talk about a case from 2013, the Shelby County versus Holder case, where the U.S. Supreme Court pretty much gutted, in many ways, the Voting Rights Act by saying that Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act was no longer a good law. And so they kicked it back to Congress and said, hey, if you want the Voting Rights Act reestablished, you got to pass legislation. So they've done that. Again, it's the John Lewis Voting Advancement Act, but they can't get it passed because, again, the Republicans will continue their filibuster. Follow me? All right, there's also the For the People Act, and that will help undo some of the voter suppression laws that the GOP state legislatures are enacting across the country, including here, Texas and Georgia and other places. All right, and these things these voter suppression laws will shave off just enough black voters to tilt the scales in favor of the GOP, of Republicans. And I personally have serious issues with that. Not that I am a Democrat, nor am I a Republican. I just don't like voter suppression because we have dealt with that as a people since Reconstruction, when we were freed from enslavement here in the country. Immediately, our white counterparts began to implement voter suppression laws. So this is something that we've been dealing with for the last 2 centuries, and it hasn't stopped. We're fighting the same fights. We're fighting these same demons. We're fighting these same devils. I don't care who someone votes for. That's their business, who they vote for, but they should have the right to vote. All right, they should have the right to vote. Everything kind of flows in a democracy. Everything kind of flows out of voting rights. Okay. Everything kind of flows out of. I'm just checking to make sure the sound is okay, and I can get text messages here on my watch, so I'm not looking at the time. I'm not distracted. I'm very much engaged with you all. But I just want to make sure that everything is going off well. And from what I'm seeing, okay. All right, sorry. Okay, so everything is still good. All right, so we need to get those laws passed, and in order to get those laws passed, we need to abolish the filibuster. Now, what can you do? What can you do? Well, here's one big thing that you can do. You can call your senator. Just pick up the phone and call your senator. You say, well, I would if I knew the number. I got you on that. I'm going to provide you the number. Here is the number. The number is, to call your senator, is 202-224-3121. Let me say it again, 202-224-3121. Once again, 202, that's the area code there in the DC area. 224-3121. Call your senator. Call both of your senators and let your voice be heard. Let them know that we got our eyes on them, okay? Let them know, all right? Don't be silent on this. Get engaged. You know, I put a post on Facebook where I said that people, African Americans, I said that African Americans are fit in 4 categories where racial justice is concerned. Some are ignorant of racial injustices, and let me quickly say that's not intended to insult anybody. I'm ignorant of so many things. I'm ignorant of more things than I am knowledgeable about. There's so many things in this world, none of us know it all. So when I say someone is ignorant, it just means they lack knowledge in some area. And some African Americans lack knowledge. And the other category is some African Americans are indifferent. Now that's worse than being ignorant, because those African Americans know that there's racial injustice, but they don't care. They don't care for whatever reason. Maybe they're doing well. They're doing fine. And so why be concerned? I am doing good. My family and I are doing good. So I really don't get into that. All right. And then there's another group, though. Those African Americans are implicit. These are the Candace Owings and the Jesse Lee Petersons. I mean, Jesse Lee Peterson, if you know this guy from California, he is an African American guy. He's just deeply, deeply committed to white supremacy in my mind, in my opinion. In fact, I heard him say that he, in response to Black History Month, has created White History Month in the month of July. I mean, literally, the guy said that. The guy does that. A Black man. So, I mean, it's just crazy. All right? So, yeah, I mean, we are one of those 3. We're ignorant, we are indifferent, we're implicit. I want to increase the 4th I category, and that is I want to get more people involved. And again, you don't have to be, you can just call your senators. Please, just call your senators and tell them to vote for the John Lewis Voting Advancement Act and for the PEOPLE Act. Tell them that you are unhappy with voter suppression. Let them know. Let them hear from you. Raise your voice. Don't sit back and let them take our right to vote. So many things flow from our ability to vote on a local level, on a state level, on a national level. So much. All the way from the potholes in our streets, all the way to who is sitting in the White House. The judges on the bench, all the way to the judges in the U.S. Supreme Court. The judges on the bench locally, all the way to the judges on the bench at the Supreme Court. From who sits on the school board to who runs the U.S. Department of Education. I mean, all of these issues flow out of our right to vote. So that's why we've got to be, we got to be, I'm getting messages about the sound and everything, and I'm trying to respond while I talk to you. All right. So And by the way, we got our first question here tonight. Someone is asking me a question. Who is being denied their right to vote? Oh, what a great question. What a great question. Thank you for that question. I am going to answer that question. All right. Who is being denied their right to vote? Well, let me tell you who is being denied their right to vote. Primarily African American people. Primarily African American people, but not just African American people. A lot of elderly people, disabled people, Hispanic voters, poor voters, because these voter suppression laws, they seem on their face to be very reasonable. For example, voter ID laws. Like you got to have either a driver's license or you got to have, here in Texas, a state ID. Do you not know there are a lot of people who otherwise are eligible to vote, but they don't have driver's license? They're eligible to vote. They're not convicted felons. They have not lost their right to vote, but they don't have a driver's license or they don't have a state ID. And some of you may say, well, they should have a driver's license or they should have a state ID. You know what? Fair point. Fair point. It would be good for them to have a driver's license, and it would be good for them or to have a state ID. Yes, you're absolutely right about that. But by them not having that, that should not be a reason why they can't vote. That should not deny them the right to vote. Voting should be the easiest thing in the world to do. The easiest thing in America should be for people to vote. And no one should lose their voting rights because they don't have a driver's license or they don't have a state ID. Now, there are other ways that people can identify themselves. There are other ways that people can, make known who they are to the officials. But the GOP know that most of the people who don't have a driver's license or who don't have a state ID, they know that most of those people are poor and black. They know that. Some of these people live in neighborhoods where they don't even need cars to drive. They ride the buses mostly everywhere. So for whatever reason, they just don't have a driver's license and a state ID. Okay? But the GOP, they know who those voters are. And they know if they require a driver's license and a state ID, they know that that's going to eliminate a lot of black voters. And who do most black voters vote for? Democrats. So the GOP knows this. This is targeted. This is purposeful. Sorry, this is purposeful. This is not coincidental. They are able to shave off just enough votes to tilt things in their favor. Okay? And why did they do that anyway? They do that because it has been a favorite strategy of the GOP to reduce the number of people who vote. They know that if a lot of people vote, they know they lose. So they know they have a better chance of winning elections if they keep people away from the polls. And that's what all of these laws do that they're enacting. I hope I answered your question. So this same person says, everyone has a state ID. No, they do not. Everyone does not have a state ID. That is not true. That is not true. Everyone does not have a state ID, and everyone does not have a driver's license. Not true. For whatever reason, there are many people, and they tend to be black, they tend to be poor, they tend to be Democrat voters, and so they're being targeted. But that's not the only thing. That's not the only way that they do this. Other states have also implemented no voting on Sunday. No voting on Sunday. Why no voting on Sunday? Because guess who do a lot of voting on Sunday? Black people. Black folks have this voting measure called get your souls to the polls. So many black folks right out the church on Sundays, they go vote. Right out the church on Sunday, they go vote. The GOP know that most of the people who vote on Sunday are blacks. And so they targeted Sunday voting. But that's not all. I could keep going on and on and on of different voter suppression laws that affects primarily black people from voting. All right? All right, so my friend here says, if poor, how do they collect welfare? Well, who says they collect welfare? I mean, why do you assume they collect welfare? Most of the people who collect welfare are white people, not poor blacks. So, I mean, that's a smear. That is a bias. That's an assumption. That is not informed. Okay, so who says that they get welfare? And by the way, and I don't know a lot about the welfare system, but let's say that blacks, let's say most poor blacks are on welfare. I know that's not true, but just for the sake of the argument, let's say most poor blacks are on welfare, and so therefore they got to have some kind of ID to get the welfare. All right, so then why not make that welfare ID sufficient for them to vote? Okay? And again, I know it's not true that most black folks are on welfare, and I know it's not true that most of the people on welfare are blacks. I know that's not true. But just for the sake of argument, suppose most blacks, poor blacks are on welfare, and therefore they got to have a welfare ID to get welfare. Then why didn't the GOP says, so that poor black folks can exercise their right to vote, let's also put on the list state ID, driver's license, and welfare ID. Why is welfare ID left off the list? Okay? It is off the list because they don't want those voters voting, because those voters don't vote Republican. So ask yourself this question. Why do nearly all of these laws affect one race of people primarily? Why do most of these laws not affect white voters largely, GOP voters largely? Why do they tend to affect one group of people? That's all by design. That's all by design. All right, so thank you for your question. Thank you for your question and your dialogue. Excellent. Now, I want to play something for you. I want to play something for you all that is tangentially related to voting, but not directly. But it's still something that I thought was very, very instructive. So watch this for a few minutes.
Sure. First of all, on the issue of critical race theory, et cetera, I'll obviously have to get much smarter on whatever the theory is. But I do think it's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university. And it is important that we train and we understand. And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders, now and in the future, do understand it. I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding, having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend? And I personally find it offensive that we are accusing the United States military, our general officers, our commissioned, non-commissioned officers, of being, quote, woke or something else because we're studying some theories that are out there. That was started at Harvard Law School years ago, and it proposed that there were laws in the United States, antebellum laws prior to the Civil War, that led to a power differential with African Americans that were 3/4 of a human being when this country was formed. And then we had a Civil War and Emancipation Proclamation to change it. And we brought it up to the Civil Rights Act in 1964. It took another 100 years to change that. So look it, I do want to know. And I respect your service, and you and I are both Green Berets. But I want to know. And it matters to our military and the discipline and cohesion of this military. And I thank you for the opportunity to make a comment on that.
Thank you, General.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Just brilliant. General Milley really made a brilliant statement right there. And he flabbergasted the Congressman Gates from Florida. I mean, to hear this military general who has served 30, 40 years in the military express that level of understanding and empathy with what is going on in this country racially, it you know, the congressman disdained it, but for the rest of us who fight this fight of racial and social justice every day, it was refreshing to hear that coming from the general. Because the right is doing everything they can right now to make everything related to race, you know, critical race theory. Everything. I mean, everything they are attaching to critical race theory and trying to make it the boogeyman. And most people, I'm telling you, do not know what critical race theory is. And I assure you that it's not being taught in schools as the GOP is running around the country scaring white people into believing. It's not. It's not being taught in school. Critical race theory is a legal doctrine, if you will, that some lawyers and law professors have deep understanding of, but the average person out here do not. And the average elementary or middle school or high school teacher is definitely not teaching critical race theory. That is not true. And some of the things that I've heard define this critical race theory is not critical race theory at all. So to hear General Milley say that yes, the United States military is interested in knowing what's being thought of out there, what's being taught out there, where people are coming from, the ideologies that are out there. We want to know, we want to understand these things because those people, many of those people are coming into the military. And we want to know who's coming in, what they believe, and how we need to deal with what they believe. I mean, that's just common sense. That's just common sense, okay? So I really appreciate him making that statement several weeks ago, and I had been intended to play that statement in other Facebook Lives and other lives, but I didn't have the chance to do so. So I wanted to do so tonight. All right, so we're coming to a close here. I just want to, again, keep the voting rights issue on the table. I want to keep it on the table. I want to get you engaged. Black family, I want to get you more involved in this. I don't want you to come up in 2022 when it's time to vote in the midterms, or maybe there's some local or state election that's important for you, and then all of a sudden you find out you can't vote because they've closed polling stations in your area, or they have eliminated early voting days that you typically would vote. And now you're like, wait a minute, I can't vote now because of this and that. Well, that's why I'm trying to inform you now, so that you can take action, so that we can stop this. All right? So, once again, please call your senator. Call both of your senators, in fact. Let me give you the number again. Write this number down. 202-224-3121. Once again, 202-224-3121. Third time, 202-224-3121. All right, very good. All right, so we're going to get out of here. We still got our friend here making his comments, and we appreciate the comments and the questions, but our time is running out. I wish in fact, the person here who's writing these questions and making these comments, go to our YouTube channel. I've made a lot of videos on critical race theory and who should be teaching it and what it means and so forth and so on. So I refer you to our YouTube channel, all right? Corbett and Corbett LLP, okay? And you'll see what I've said in previous live streams about critical race theory. But I'm out of here. Listen, I apologize for those early technical difficulties, but I am the speaker, the producer, and so on. And so sometimes things don't go the way I plan, and I have to, while I'm speaking, I have to try and fix it. Okay, but still the word gets out, and my message gets out. And so we thank God for Facebook Live and YouTube Live and LinkedIn Live and all the rest of it. All right. My friend here says Biden is illegitimate. Wow. Biden is illegitimate. Not according to 50 states, and many of them are GOP states. Even the GOP states legitimized his election. And by the way, let me say it one more time. Maybe you weren't up here when I stated it. I am not a Democrat, okay? I am not a Republican. I am not a liberal, and I'm not a conservative, okay? I'm a believer. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christ follower. I am a kingdom citizen, and I take issue at times with both Democrats and Republicans because both of them tend to get off from what the Word of God prescribes. Both of them, no question about it. And so I've been a Democrat in my life, and I've been a Republican in my life, and I decided to get off both of those trains. And really, CrowdStrike and Russiagate and all that, my Lord, my God. Listen, I'll be praying for you, man. I see that you're a strong, mega Trumpsonian supporter, so whatever. But I do appreciate your comments and questions and your engagement. All right, I'm out of here, you all. The Lord be with you all. Bye.